Happy Saturday afternoon, folks. One tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Eagles are up. Let's talk.
Fasten your seatbelts for the realest Eagles and Sixers YouTuber! One who plays no clickbait and gets to the point! The myth, the legend, Nicky Steves! Come to my channel, you know the deal. Yo, boy, always keeps things real. I'm simply statue, think and slate, dropping unrealistic man, 2K takes for the clip. Even though cats like that get views closer to the millie, never hear me preach, look on to Philly. Before you watch the Eagles all the way through the early 22, authentic talk, forget what others do. Come to my channel, you know the deal. Yo, boy, always keeps things real. The 24/7, 365 way. Sports content for the reals that feel the day.
Happy afternoon, folks. Hope you're enjoying your Saturday. We got this weekend off to a hot start. I know on the Hardcore Sports Network, we had Mitch and Philly halftime do this weekend wake up. And here we are now. It's time for the Eagles versus Bengals Week 8 preview. Welcome to the show. If you haven't done so already, make sure to drop a like on both my channel and the Hardcore Sports Network, where we are streaming this from. So let's get into it. Tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Philadelphia Eagles will play the Cincinnati Bengals. In Cincinnati, Bengals are minus 2.5-point favorites in this 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time game, despite the difference in records, despite the Eagles being 4-2, despite the Bengals being 3-4. The reason why they're the favorites is because they're looking at how the teams match up, particularly the way the Eagles defense has struggled against consistent quarterbacks such as Cousins, Baker Mayfield in their two losses, even at times against the Green Bay Packers and Jordan Love in the Week 1 win in Brazil. And now we look at Burrow and Chase. Now, despite their record being the worst record on paper, this game says, okay, this should be a win for the Eagles, but Bengals, despite being 3-4, they still do have Joe Burrow, who's still one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. They still have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, the top 1-2 duo. And they do have some solid pieces on offense that they can work with in the passing game. And knowing the way the Eagles have struggled to get pressure on quarterbacks and how they struggled against the Buccaneers secondary, or the way they struggled against the Falcons at times in that Monday night loss, or even the Green Bay Packers Week 1, it's obvious why the Bengals are the favorites in this matchup. And even though we did win last week against the Giants 28-3, we're not playing the Giants. Cincinnati Bengals actually do have playmakers on this offense. They can actually light up the scoreboard against the Eagles. They could go on the field, march down the field, a few deep drives, score like the Buccaneers did in that Week 4 matchup, and we could find ourselves in an ugly predicament here. So that's why the Bengals are the favorites in this matchup. With that being said, though, we won't know for sure what's going to go down until the game's played. But I'm going to give a preview, break down the key matchups, the injury report, what are the keys to victory. I'm going to get into that right there. First, we're going to start with looking at the injury report for both teams. While we're still on the subject of talking about our opponent, let's go through the Cincinnati Bengals first. Then we'll go through the Eagles. I got them on two separate tabs. We're going to look through the depth chart. And give me 1 second. I'm going to put them up, and I'm going to start sharing the Bengals depth chart with you guys first. Let's get into it. Here we go. We got the Cincinnati Bengals depth chart. We're going to take a look. Look on offense. You got Burrow playing at Chase Brown, Jamar Chase. Although T. Higgins is questionable, we're not sure if he's going to play or not. Higgins sustained quadriceps injury during Friday practice and is listed as questionable for Sunday's game. Higgins is coming off an injury yesterday in practice, which is why he's questionable. You got Higgins is questionable. And then you got there you go. You got the depth chart. You got Higgins is questionable. Hey, look, I figured out how to finally do that, but here we go. All right, so Higgins questionable. You got Jason Kirkland, the left guards on injured reserve. You got Trent Brown, Deontay Smith, right tackles, injured reserve. On the defense, Dak Hill's out in the secondary. You got Cam Sample for defensive end. Lead linebacker, you got defensive back. You got Lance Robinson on an injured reserve. But the Bengals, and to be fair, the Bengals, we're going to take a look at this. They do have some solid playmakers on defense. You got Trey Hendrickson. That's going to be a key matchup to watch out for. We'll get more into that in a minute. But the Bengals, for the most part, don't have any serious major injuries. Now, let's take a look at the Eagles depth chart real quick. Eagles, see Dallas Goedert, he is out for this matchup, so we will not be seeing Goddard in the lineup. We still have AJ Smitty and Dotson if needed to. Britton Covey's on IR. Jordan Mailata's on IR, which means Fred Johnson's going to have to start. Again, he's going to have a tough matchup. He's going to have his hands full. I'll get into that more in a minute. Yeah, Becky Becton out. Tyler Steen will fill in at right guard. We got, Fred Johnson, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jerkins, Tyler Steen, and Lane Johnson will be our offensive line for this matchup. In defense, you got James Bradbury still out and Byron Young, but we still have Milton Williams, defensive end, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Brandon Graham, Zach Vaughn, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. might get some playing time. Nakobe Dean, Ben Van Sumeren might get some time. Josh Sweat, Nolan Smith Jr., Quinyon Mitchell, Keely Ringo, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Tristan McCollum, Reed Blankenship, Darius Slade Jr., Cooper DeJean. Now there's our depth chart written. So the injury report, we are mostly healthy. Our most notable injuries are Jordan Mailata on IR, Britton Covey on IR, but to be fair, Cooper DeJean has turned out to be a decent and suitable replacement as a return man. And then you also got, of course, Dallas Goedert. He's still out this week. So that's Mailata and Goddard are going to be the two biggest missed losses on offense in this matchup. And speaking of matchups, now we're going to get more into the key matchups for this team. I'm going to talk a little more in depth about the two teams and the key matchups we got. The main matchup, obviously, in this one is the Eagles secondary versus Chase and Higgins. And I just alluded to it earlier. The reason why the Bengals are favorites because the Eagles secondary has struggled. They struggled against Mike Evans and Chris Godwin against the Bucs. They struggled against the Falcons. We got Little G Griffin, the Eagles fan, always stopping by to show support for the Eagles content. Thanks as always for your support. And we got that matchup there. We saw the Eagles struggled against Evans and Godwin on that Monday night. That game against the Bucs, the Monday night game against the Falcons, they struggled too. And now you're going against Chase and Higgins, arguably the top two, the best 1-2 duo in the NFL currently. And Joe Burrow, he say what you want to say, but he's still a solid quarterback. He hasn't gotten back to that Super Bowl season pinnacle yet, but he's still one of the better quarterbacks in the league. And when he's healthy, the Bengals have a shot. Let's not forget, he's still gone back to the conference championship game the following season in a rematch against Kansas City, where they were one game shy of playing us in the Super Bowl that year. So the point being is, let's not forget, Joe Burrow is still a good quarterback, and he's got weapons to play with in this one. We got to keep that in mind. You got Jamar Chase. He is second in receiving yards behind Justin Jefferson in this one. So we got a tough matchup there with Darius Slay and Quinyon Mitchell being the main ones going against the wide receivers. Now, Mitchell, we've seen at times he's been tested, and there have been times he's persevered when tested. He helped shut down Malik Neighbors last week. We saw he's had some good pass deflections. We saw week 1 against the Packers early in the game. He had a pass deflection when Jordan Love tested him with a deep shot to the end zone. So between Quinyon Mitchell and Darius Slay, I feel Quinyon Mitchell at this point is the more reliable option because big play Slay, as much as we love him, his game has taken a few steps down. He's not the same guy he was the first couple of years he was here. We saw evidence of it last year. There were times he had flashes of brilliance, but he wasn't really playing up to himself. But that's going to be a T matchup. And you bet you most likely the Bengals are going to go against Darius Slay. So if you put Slay against Higgins or Slay against Chase, Burrow's going to look for that match because he's going to see a favorable matchup against Slay and try to go in that direction. So it's important that Darius steps up and is on his A game for this matchup and shutting down whoever he's matched up on, whether that be Chase, Higgins, or possibly both if they alternate. Maybe they put Slay on Chase 1 minute and then Mitchell on Higgins. Maybe they alternate later, do the reverse, Slay on Higgins, Mitchell on Chase. But we'll see, though. But the point is, they got to be ready. The secondary has to be ready. Quinyon Mitchell, this is his biggest test thus far I've seen. He's got to step up in this matchup here and help shut him down. So it's important that our secondary does well, too. And also, Cooper DeJean's got to be ready, too, because sometimes Chase and Higgins go in the slot, and that means Cooper DeJean will get tested at safety. Now, we've seen him do solid. He's had his good moments here, but this is his toughest test right here. What happens if they go send either Chase or Higgins in the slot? Is Cooper DeJean ready? It's key that he's ready for those guys. Hopefully he is. Hopefully he knows what he's getting into. Hopefully he can shut him down if he needs to. But our secondary going against the Bengals wide receivers, that's an important matchup we got to watch out for. And then on the flip side, you got our offense, our wide receivers versus the Bengals secondary. And the most important matchup there, the most favorable matchup is to go against Cam Taylor-Britt, who has struggled against the pass, he's had times where he's gave up 118 passing yards in coverage. Well, he's given up we got to be careful. Yeah, but you got to take advantage of that matchup. Cam Taylor-Britt, not exactly the most efficient defensive back. And if you can put AJ on, if you can have AJ line up against him, that could create a great mismatch in our favor for Hurts to get the ball to. So that's a key matchup right there for our guys, AJ and Smitty, to get open in this one. But we also got to factor in another matchup. It's the Eagles' offensive line. They got to go up against the Bengals' defensive line. Particularly Fred Johnson has to go up against Trey Hendrickson, who's had 7 sacks. And Johnson gave up 4 pressures against the Giants. So he had a shaky day against the Giants. Now looks like he's going to be matched up against an underrated defensive lineman in Trey Hendrickson for the Bengals. Now he's going to have his hands full there, which means he could try to get to the QB a little bit, which means it might be tough for Hurts to have enough time in the pocket to get those passes off to AJ and Smitty, even if they are going against a struggling Bengals secondary. Yeah, Greg John, hello, what is up? Thanks for stopping by. Right, and as I was saying, that's going to be a tough match. Right, so we have a favorable matchup there. AJ Smitty against the secondary, but can we get the ball off to them in time? Is Trey Hendrickson going to blow past Fred Johnson, get to Hurts before he has the chance to get his feet set to throw the ball to those guys? Which is why I think when I factor in what the best thing to do would be to send Smitty and Brown on those screen passes or possibly those some slant routes. Even if you have to do checkdowns with those guys, do it just to get the ball out of Hurts' hands before they get to him. We might have to change up the playbook a little bit. Yeah, obviously we can still take our deep shots. Hurts can still try to throw a deep ball to A.J. Brown, but we might have to change the passing game up a little bit and go for some checkdowns just to get the ball out of Hurts' hands quicker in this matchup. especially if Trey Hendrickson gets the best of Fred Johnson in this matchup. He could be a problem for the Eagles in the passing game. So I think that we might have to change up the passing book a little bit, maybe go some slots, if we have to, curl routes at times. We can still throw, you can still throw the deep ball, but you got to mix it up a little bit. Maybe do some screens with Saquon or some screens with AJ, stuff like that. Little simple things to mix up the passing game. And then the other key matchup on offense is Saquon versus the Bengals run defense, which is the most favorable matchup with our offense against the Bengals defense out of them. Because the Bengals have struggled against the run. I looked into it and I noticed it. The Bengals have given up nearly close to 1,000 rushing yards so far halfway through the season. And Saquon's third in most rushing yards. If we develop a strategy, I'm going to briefly jump ahead to the keys to victory based on running the ball, similar to what we did against the Giants, that could help us out there. Because the Bengals' biggest weakness thus far, their two biggest weaknesses are the pass, their main one's the run game. So that gives Saquon a big advantage. And from what I see, the Bengals have given up like 3 yards after contact, which means Saquon could get some extra yards after contact against these guys. So you see, that's the most favorable matchup for us on that side. Now, when it comes to next key matchup is the Eagles' defensive line. They're going against the Bengals' offensive line. And the Bengals have been giving up sacks. Now, Burrow has been sacked 18 times thus far, but he also has a quick release time. He's quicker than Deshaun Watson and Daniel Jones on average. Burrow has a 2.72 release time on average. And that's what we got to want. So we might not be able to get to him as many times. Hopefully we can still get, knowing the Bengals have their holes on the offensive line, there's still the possibility we could get to them, make some plays, get a few sacks, and keep that momentum from the past two games, 5 sacks against the Browns, 8 against the Giants, going to some degree. Now, it's not going to be this. I don't expect this Eagles defense to get 8 sacks or anywhere near it. But even if we get 3 sacks, that could help out. So you got Mike Green. Thanks for stopping by. He says, Jalen didn't seem to want to throw the ball over the middle of the field. If you watch, he only throws along the sidelines. That's why I think the tight ends aren't used as much in the game plan. Yeah, and that's a great point there, too, about the passing game. That's probably why we're not using the tight ends much. And it's only worse now. We don't have Goddard in the game there to help us out with that. We're probably going to be seeing in this game either a lot of passes along the sidelines, a mix of pass along the sidelines, running plays, both with Saquon and with Hurts and scrambling. That's mainly what we're going to see from this matchup. And we got to be watch out for that right there. But now we're going to take a second. Let's see. Was there anything I'm missing talking about? See, we talked about the passing game. We're talking about the defense. The Eagles. Now, we know the Eagles have struggled to get pressure on the quarterbacks, but if they can do something here, at least get some pressure on Joe Burrow, or at least get to him, get a few sacks, that would really help. Well, I don't know about that, though, because we struggled against the Bucs and the Falcons. So I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. And knowing the way the Eagles have played against adversity this season, I'm not sold on it. I'm not fully sold on them in this one. But now moving right along. Now we're going to end this talking about the keys to victory. What can the Eagles do in this one? Keys to victory. The first key to victory in this one, considering this has the possibility of being a high-scoring game, and there's a good chance the Bengals could put a lot of points on us, is to get off to a hot start. We've seen it throughout the entire regular season. The Eagles do not get off to a hot start in the first quarter. Now, granted, we were still able to get the job done the last 2 weeks without scoring early, but that was against the New York Giants and the Cleveland Browns. The Cincinnati Bengals have a much more potent offense than those two teams respectively. So it's important in this case that the Eagles get off to a hot start. Move down the field on your first offensive drive. If you get the ball first, take that first drive, Go down the field and get you points. Even if it's only a field goal, do that. Focus on the run. Focus on the checkdowns and the screen passes, mainly for the first drive offensively. Kill some time on the clock. Keep the Bengals defense out on the field. And keep their offense off the field. That would be one key right there. Get off to a hot start. Get some points early. Maybe have a long first drive. Wear down their defense a little bit. Make the offense sit on the bench. Get some points on the board. That'd be a nice start. And that could tie. And another thing is, I think, control time of possession throughout this game. That's a great way to wear down their defense and to keep their offense off the field to minimize their effectiveness. I just feel like one play at a time. Go out there, get some points early. Anything, even if it's just a field goal. Even if you get a field goal, then you give up a touchdown. Okay, if you have a longer drive, it can at least keep the Bengals off the field, wear down their defense a little bit. So then maybe the second drive, you're able to get in the end zone, score a touchdown. Then maybe it's a 10-7 going into the start of the second quarter, or maybe it's 10-10, something along those lines. Oh, we can at least make it competitive if we get off to a hot start in this matchup. And then the second key to victory, continue running the ball, basically as a continuation from last week. What we did last week against the Giants with Saquon just running up. He was running the ball, having the dominant day. Do something similar here. Like I said, the Bengals are not the most efficient team against the run. If we take advantage of that mismatch and let Saquon run the ball like he did against the Giants. Focus your game plan around the run. That's another key. That'll come in handy, especially we start off early, running the ball. Now, there's no guarantee that the first drive Saquon's going to come out, first play, have a big run. He could have a 2-yard gain his first play from scrimmage. Maybe a 1-yard gain the second. Then maybe the third carry, he gets 5 yards. Could be something along those lines where it takes a few carries to get him going. Maybe something like that happens, but you got to stick with the run. You can't give up on it. Don't go out there if, say, 1 or 2 runs, you don't get the results you're looking for. Let's give up trying to run the ball. Don't do that. Now, maybe if the first 2 carries don't go your way, maybe set up a few screen passes or some checkdowns to get something going in the passing game. Then come back to the run. I don't literally mean run the ball every single play, but don't give up trying to run the ball if the first couple runs don't go as planned. Stick with that strategy of primarily focusing heavily on the run because it can pay off. There's the second key to victory. The third key is not turning the ball over. Because remember, Greg had talked about this last week in the Eagles-Giants preview when we went into it thinking it might be a close game because that division rival motivation factor. But that key does. Now, we didn't have to worry about it last week, but that key does hold up this week, especially if the game goes as we think it will, where the Bengals can score early. If the Bengals come out the gates, have a few offensive drives where they're scoring points, touchdowns, field goals, touchdown and a field goal, whatever, and we're turning the ball over, that's going to put us in a deep hole early that score-wise could be down by 10 or 14, and that's going to be a hard deficit to overcome. So it's also important that we don't turn the ball over in this matchup. So that's the third key to victory. So my main keys to victory in this one are get off to a hot start, focus heavily on the run, limit the turnovers, and I did allude to some other little things, but those are my main 3 keys to victory. I did allude to we got to get pressure and all that. All that's true. We got to utilize the run game more, but those are my main 3 keys to victory right there. To reiterate, is get off to a hot start, run the ball, and keep the turnovers out. Because, this is going to be a tough matchup. And when we did the pick'ems, I did initially pick the Eagles, but now obviously I want the Eagles to win. But looking at this matchup, I got a feeling this might go in favor of the Bengals because Eagles, when they're tested, and haven't fared well thus far. And that Bengals game is a test. So prediction-wise, I'm leaning. I get a feeling the Bengals could win this game based off the way we've played so far. However, this is also the opportunity for my team to prove me wrong and to prove that, hey, you're just overreacting to the start. This is the opportunity for the Eagles to prove me wrong on that and prove that, hey, this was an overreaction. We're starting to get our groove going now. I hope they prove me wrong, but so far, I could see the Bengals winning this game by a score of 34-20, possibly. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully the Eagles do keep up. They find a way to win. Maybe they surprise everyone by limiting the Bengals to 20 points or less. That would be lovely if that happened. I would love for nothing more than the Eagles to prove me wrong. But the way things are looking now, I see the Bengals scoring at least 30, probably winning this game by a score of 34-20. Hopefully I'm wrong, though. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully the Eagles step up and it all turns out to be cynicism. And maybe some of you guys watching this, some Eagles fans are hoping that I just jinx the Bengals. Maybe that's possible, but we'll see. But if you guys are still there, you want to drop your score prediction in the chat, feel free to do so. And that's pretty much it for now with this game. I went through all the main matchups. I gave my keys to victory, went through the injury report, briefly touched up on the odds. That's pretty much it for this one. So to everyone that stopped by, thanks for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed this stream. I hope you enjoyed this. Hope you're off to a great start on your weekend. Tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, it's going down. We'll see what the Eagles can do. I'll come back probably sometime, I'm thinking late Monday night, probably around 8 o'clock. I'm going to come back and recap the game, give you my thoughts on the matchup. So I'll be following this stream up 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time Monday night, recapping the game, depending on what happens. So stay tuned for that. Eagles-Bengals recap, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to create the stream after we're done with this. So again, to everyone that watched, thank you for your support as always. Like I always say, without you guys, I wouldn't be doing these streams. Thanks to you guys tuning in, engaging in the chat. That makes this thing more fun and worthwhile. So thanks for your support as always. Fly, Eagles, fly. Let's get this W. Hopefully they prove me wrong. We bump up to 5-2. Keep pace in the lead for the NFC East. Hopefully we prove the doubters from the media and some of the people in our own fan base that are a little bit worried, but such as myself. Hopefully they prove all of us wrong. Get this W, move to 5-2. But we'll see what happens tomorrow, and we'll go from there. So that's it. So have a great rest of your weekend, folks. Your boy Nicky Steve signing off. Close it out with flapping the arms, doing the fly, Eagles, fly, baby. Until next time, peace. Fly, Eagles, fly.